You are listening to the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast, the only show 100% dedicated to highlighting women in all areas of the pet industry. I'm your host, Tori Mystic, the founder of Wear, Wag, Repeat. And I'm really excited because we are coming up on 300 episodes of this podcast. I can't believe it. I remember sitting probably in this very spot as I was coming up on 100 episodes and 200 episodes and 250 episodes. I come out with an episode every single Wednesday, and I've been extremely consistent with that. So there's 52 weeks in a year, so that's 52 episodes a year. So 300 episodes means that I've been doing this for about 5 years. Is that correct? I don't know. You guys will have to check my math on that. Now I'm thinking it adds up to 6, but I am no mathematician. I'm a content creator, podcaster, course creator, and I'm really excited to bring you this solo episode today. I did a little bit more math. I don't know why I got the confidence to do math and lead this episode off this way, but I did a little bit of calculations, and I think that if you wanted to listen to every episode in the entire archive of this podcast, it would take you over 146 hours. Now, you're going to have to do the math on how many days that equals. This is not a math podcast, okay, guys? So we're just going to have to get past that. But maybe what I'm getting into in the topic of this episode, we might be able to find some people to help us with a little bit of math. But anyhow, I did some calculations. It would take you 146 hours to listen to every episode in the archives of this show. I've interviewed literally hundreds of women in the pet industry. It's really exciting and amazing to me. When I first started this podcast, I actually started interviewing creative women entrepreneurs who had pets. I didn't even realize that this show was going to become an exclusive pet industry podcast for women petpreneurs. When I first started, I didn't even realize how many of us there are out there. And I think that's why it's important to me to keep doing this and to keep highlighting the people that I've already had on, because there's so many amazing, inspiring, talented women that I've talked to, that I have amazing interviews with in my archives that I think a lot of people don't know about. So that is why I went through all of my episodes leading up to 300. I thought it was great to kind of look back at where we've come from and also see if there were any kind of like themes that emerged or anything that was especially groundbreaking for me. And I decided to put together 10 of the most important lessons or the most significant pieces of advice that I have learned from women who I've interviewed over the last 5 or 6 years. Is anyone out there doing the math on that? Get back to me, please. So I went through the whole archive. I went through the list of every single episode, interviews. I didn't really look at my solo episodes because I don't know, it felt weird to be inspired by myself. But I looked at all of my interview episodes and I looked and decided which episodes really stick out to me, which ones were interviews where I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. She is so inspiring. I can't believe she's done this. Or I was surprised by something that she said, or just, maybe took their advice and actually implemented it in my business. And I ended up coming up with the top 10 examples. And so I put all of these top 10 most impactful lessons that I have learned in 300 episodes of this podcast, and I put it together in kind of like an ebook resource guide for you. And I made that available for free to download. If you go to the show notes for this episode, just go to wearwagrepeat.com/podcast. This is episode 296. So you can search for episode 296 or just go to the main podcast page, and I'm sure you can find it there. And in the show notes for this episode, I have linked up, just put in your email and you will instantly get an email to download this guide with the 10 most impactful lessons that I have learned from women on my show. But today, I want to tell you about 5 of those lessons, just so that you can kind of get a taste for the kind of advice that people have shared with me, and maybe inspire you to go back and listen to the archives a little bit. I like to say that with this guide, this top 10 pieces of advice guide, I'm sort of saving you 146 hours of your time. So you're welcome. Go to the show notes and check that out. It's really, really great. The PDF, I think it turned out really beautiful. So I'd also just like for you to see the PDF. And I broke it down so each page is about one episode with this really amazing piece of advice. There is an actionable quote from each woman that will give you something that you could actually go and do and implement in your business to try to achieve the kind of success that they've achieved. And then I also included an inspirational quote because I'm inspired by every single guest I have here. And sometimes you need inspiration and sometimes you need action. And so whatever it is that you need, I wanted to give it to you here. You can kind of pick and choose. So go grab that document. You can see all the different quotes and learn more about the different guests. There's just 10 of them, so it's not too overwhelming. It's not like trying to go and listen to 300 episodes, which I know can be a lot. And that's why I sort of summarized this for you guys. And it's not just random. These are really the episodes and the quotes and the lessons that stuck out to me from the past several years. So today I want to tell you about 5 of them. So the 5 I'm going to tell you about I'm just going to really quickly run through these and then I'll tell you more about them in a second. So number 1, the importance of understanding your business financials. Number 2, pricing principles and the psychology behind them. Number 3, pivoting your business model from products to teaching. Number 4, commit to your passion and trust your instincts. And number 5, understand what your customer really wants. Okay, so let's dive into these. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each lesson and the woman petpreneur who taught me it. So first off, lesson 1, understand your business financials. Now, this was a really important episode to me. This was back on episode 102. My guest was Susan Briggs of The Dog Gurus. She's a pet industry business coach, and she works with a lot of dog daycare facilities and I think also some dog walkers. It's mainly dog service businesses. And she does tons of coaching. They have amazing programs if you check out the Dog Gurus. But one of the best pieces of advice that Susan shared with us on that episode was, when evaluating the various elements of your business, you need to understand their costs and how these costs relate to the different revenue streams that you may offer. It really comes down to making sure you're priced right for your services and what you're providing. So Susan really breaks down in this episode how you need to know exactly what your costs are and how those relate to what you're charging. Sometimes your costs are very different. Different industries have different kind of markup. And I think especially when we're talking about pet services where it's a lot of your time and your expertise, it can be hard to quantify what that is worth. And sure, you can kind of look at comparables in the market and see what other people in your town are charging. But it's also really important to not just base your pricing off what other people are doing. You really need to get clear on what your hard costs are and also what your soft costs are. So please go and check that out. That's episode 102 in the archives. And again, you can find all the links to these 5 episodes and this new freebie download that I created in the show notes for this episode. Okay. Moving on, lesson number 2. This is more pricing insight, this time from Julie Swan, the honest dog breeder. We talked on episode 184, and Julie shared with me one of my favorite lessons from all 300 episodes of the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. So she talked about how pricing of your products or your services plays a crucial role in attracting the right customers and shaping how they see the value in what you provide. So think about, there might be 2 people who have almost the exact same offer, but one person charges $15 and the other person charges $95. Believe me, it's out there. And you might have the exact same thing for 2 very different prices. And what's going to happen is customers are going to make assumptions that the more expensive thing is perhaps better. Maybe the lower priced thing maybe is a better value. Maybe they're getting a steal. Or maybe it's not as good. I don't know. So Julie talks a little bit about pricing psychology when it comes to pricing your services and your products. She's a dog breeder, so she's pricing puppies, which seems like a really hard thing to price, in my opinion. But here's Julie's actionable advice that I pulled from her episode. So she said, starting with lower priced services can attract customers who will be impressed with any extra effort or service provided. These customers can provide testimonials and honest feedback, which can be invaluable for your business. So don't underestimate the power of offering affordable options to attract and retain customers at the start. So this is really great advice from Julie. It's just the tip of the iceberg because we also get into kind of the complications and the layers that come as your business grows and you increase your pricing, and perhaps your customer base evolves and changes with your pricing. Moving on to lesson number 3, another one of my favorites. It was so hard to narrow down this list. So this is episode 170. My guest was Min Young Morita of Dog Bakery Academy. If you have not checked out what Min Young is doing with Dog Bakery Academy, she creates beautiful videos, beautiful photos. Her aesthetics are just like on point. Just, they're a vibe, you guys. You have to check it out. It's so beautiful. But she really knows what she's talking about as well. She creates really healthy and balanced recipes for dog treats and dog food. And she ran a successful dog bakery that she decided to pivot into a online course, a dog bakery academy that teaches other people how to open their own dog bakeries. So here is the actionable quote that I pulled from this episode. Min Young said, if you want to teach what you're doing, or if you're thinking about making a course or teaching people how to do what you do, start with your strengths, your skills, your experiences, and really understand that people do value that. I want that to sink in there. I think that a lot of people, especially pet people, we're so in our world that we think everything we do is so obvious. But to your average pet parent, these are things they've never thought of. For example, we might think that it's very, very simple to freeze a Kong. Like, that is a no-brainer, right? But I talk to pet parents all the time that they have never thought of freezing a Kong, or they've never thought of putting anything other than peanut butter in a Kong. And so if you can create educational content about that and how to kind of up people's Kong game, which I do all the time, then that has huge value in it. So please go listen to this episode. Again, you can find it in the show notes, or in the show notes for this episode, you'll find a link to this new freebie I created with all the links and all these great quotes. Again, there are actionable quotes and inspirational quotes from each guest. I do want to share with you Min Young's inspirational quote because I think it's really sweet. She said, "It's not really about the treats. It's about the relationships and the bond you create with dog parents and their fur babies." I think that resonates with so many of us. Of course, we love the products or the materials or the educational resources that we create, but what really makes us smile, what makes our hearts sing and our hearts fill with joy and love, I think, is when what we're teaching people or what we're selling people, when it clicks and we see it working for them. I know that just makes me so happy. If someone tells me that they did some of my enrichment games and their dog like almost seemed like they were proud because they were learning something new, that makes my week. Someone told me that the other day and I can't stop thinking about it. That makes my week. So it's not about the perfect photos or the perfect podcast episode. It's certainly not about that because most of the time I'm just winging it over here, you guys. But it is about how we make people feel and the difference we make in the world. Okay? So moving on here, we have 2 more lessons. Lesson number 4, commit to your passion and trust your instincts. So this comes from episode 197. My guests were Katie and Shell of Pretty Fluffy. I was so excited to talk to them because Pretty Fluffy, if you're not familiar with it, this, in my opinion, is like one of the OG dog lifestyle blogs. And years ago, I was working with one of my local pet photographer friends, Jenny Carlson. And she approached me and said, Lucy was like 1 year old. So this might have been 9 or 10 years ago. Jenny approached me and said that she really wanted to have some of her photography work featured on Pretty Fluffy. This was like her dream in life. And could I collaborate with her to do a styled shoot? Do you guys remember those? I feel like people don't do that as much anymore, but we did a styled shoot of a dog birthday party, and we got all this merchandise that we borrowed and really styled it like it was a little magazine editorial shoot. And she submitted the photos to Pretty Fluffy, and they got featured. And it was really, really exciting. So when I got the opportunity to interview Katie and Shell after they took over the site from Serena, who was the original owner, it was really just so exciting to me that, they recognized the vision. They also loved Pretty Fluffy and what it stood for and what it represents, and they're continuing on with the mission. And this was such a highlight to me to talk to them. And it was also just really fun to interview them and hear about how they acquired this site that I just look up to and admire so much. So anyhow, let's get to it. Their actionable quote was, "Being smart in approaching tasks means focusing on a specific niche area that you excel in rather than trying to do everything." Oh man, I really need to take that advice. I know that I do way too many things. I do try to do everything. I don't know if you can relate to that at all, but a big part of this interview was about committing to your passion and trusting your instincts while being smart about what tasks you're approaching. So Katie and Shell both told me that it's really important to narrow down and focus in on specific things. So like for them, like, are you really great at photography? Okay, focus on the photography. Are you really great at the blogging? Yeah, focus in on that. But it's really hard to do everything. And I definitely think that is so true. lesson number 5, the final one that I'm sharing with you here on this episode, is survive the startup phase by understanding what your customer wants. All right, this was another exciting episode with me. This was with Lorianne Clemens of Pet Hub. They are kind of the original maker of this QR code dog ID tag, or pet ID tag, I should say. It's not just for dogs, right? But they created this QR code pet ID tag many years ago, way before in the pandemic, everyone's bringing the QR code back. Do you guys remember 10 or 15 years ago when QR codes first came about? That's when they started making these tags. So they really were the first on the scene. And Lorianne has some great advice to share with that. She says, if you're thinking of starting a pet industry startup, a new business, first off, do your research. I remember very clearly, even though this is from episode 207, so almost 100 episodes ago, which I think that equals 2 years. Am I doing the math right? So maybe 2 years ago, I can remember word for word everything that she told me in that interview. It was such a great conversation, and man, oh man, does she know her stuff. She knew so many stats and figures about lost pets, because these tags are helping pets get home faster. Lost pets, they're helping them reunite with their families faster than ever before. And this is something that's really important to them and their brand. And they're partnering with different organizations in the community, like the city. They're partnering with cities and making sure that when people are registering their pets, that they are getting this kind of tag so that they're easy to keep track of, right? So Lorianne has some really great advice, but I loved hearing about the groundbreaking and life-saving work that she's doing. But here's the actionable quote that I pulled from her for this episode. So she says, know your audience. Research and understand their wants and needs before launching your product or service. Remember, it is not about what you think your audience wants. It's about understanding their desires and then delivering a solution that addresses their pain points. Oh my gosh, that's basically how to do business 101. And it's something that I think no matter where you are in your business, it's so important to remember. It's not about doing what you want to do. I mean, maybe you have unlimited funds. Maybe you are sponsored by somebody or some sort of person is funding your lifestyle, and you can just do whatever you want and create whatever you want. But for most of us, we need to create what our customers want and what they need. So you really do have to do a lot of research, and that's such a great episode to get inspired about that topic. So I hope that you enjoyed this little sneak peek at some of the best lessons that I have learned from women petpreneurs in the last 5 or 6 years that I've been interviewing them for this podcast. I can't believe that I'm coming up on 300 episodes. So the best way to help me celebrate is to go download this guide that I created, this resource with 10 tips. It's a 12-page PDF. So there's like a cover and like an end page. And then each page in the document is about an episode. So there's a little write-up about who the woman is and what I learned from her. And then I have an actionable quote and an inspirational quote. So I want to end this episode by sharing the inspirational quote from Lorianne, because I think it really ties in with my whole mission and why we're all here together. So her inspirational quote said, "Community is about reaching out, connecting, and supporting one another. It's the fabric that holds us together." So I hope that I can just weave together a fabric of all of these amazing petpreneurs and wrap myself up in it to keep warm. Honestly, you guys keep me going. I thank you so much for listening to this episode and for listening to any episode in the Wear, Wag, Repeat archives. There are almost 300 of them. This is episode 296. So if you want to scroll back and find something good to listen to, in the past few years, I have done some special episodes related to Thanksgiving and Small Business Saturday, and I have some great holiday episodes from previous years. So if you are spending a lot of time in the car this week or in the coming month, there's lots and lots of things for you to listen to. And we are getting very close to the new year. So I would love to make 2024 the best year for your pet business and for my pet business. To be honest with you, we really are in this together. And I think the more that we can support each other, the more that we are all going to rise up and live our dream lives. So please reach out to me. Let me know how I can help you. I am going to be offering some exciting programs in 2024. So Wear, Wag, Repeat Society will be getting a little makeover and an upgrade to the format and the content, and I'm really excited about that. So I hope that you will consider joining us in Wear, Wag, Repeat Society. It's a great monthly membership that is very affordable, but provides great value, lots of experts, and lots of chances to connect with our tight-knit community. Of course, I also offer one-on-one coaching if you need that personal support and accountability. And in 2024, I'm going to be offering my Course Creator Mastermind again. So that was a huge hit earlier this year. I helped 4 petpreneurs create their very first online course. I know that 3 of them launched them. The 4th one, she's like 90% there. I'm not sure if it actually got launched yet or not. I have to check in with Mel and see what's going on there. But everyone pretty much created a course, and I'm so proud of all of them. They were huge successes. So I'm excited to offer the Course Creator Mastermind again. It's going to be in the early part of 2024. So whatever your pet business dream is for next year, I would love to help you achieve it. And even if I can't help you, I would just love to hear about what your dreams are, because you inspire me to keep going and to keep doing this. So thank you so much for listening to the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. Again, I created this amazing PDF with 10 inspiring and actionable pieces of advice from 10 of the most impressive women in the pet industry, in my opinion. And you can find that at wearwagrepeat.com/podcast-episode-296. That's the exact URL for the show notes for this episode. You can probably also just look below in your podcast player, and you will find a nice, tidy little link to the show notes right there. All right, guys, that wraps it up for me today. Please tune in next Wednesday when I will have an interview with another amazing woman in the pet industry. I hope you have a great week.